Sometimes these things really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. What really life is about is doing what you love with the people that you care and love about. And honestly, as long as I have those things, that's okay by me. I'm Matt Torello. I am currently a junior at Kean University. I am majoring in communications media film. The main club that I'm a part of is Kean TV, where we film shows, we have projects done, and I've done a few things for Kean TV. I worked teleprompter on the midday show. I wrote and starred in a lot of skits for Expired TV, where I introduced my character from high school, Captain Butterball. It was fun bringing him along. I did some camera work for season 2 of Are We Rolling? And as of now, I am a host of my own show that I developed called Movies with Matt. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Movies with Matt.
Welcome to Movies with Matt.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Movies with Matt. Welcome to another installment of Movies with Matt, the show where we talk about movies and what else? Movies! I'm glad I've come far from this beginning, but I'll always be grateful for this. Like no matter what I do now, honestly, nothing can compare to what was behind this green screen. This is where it all began, and sometimes you just gotta be grateful of where you started out, because without knowing where you start out, then what's the point of the future? I just remember as a kid, being always sent to these special people. They would just I wouldn't say study because I'm not a lab animal, but they would just let me do things, and I guess they would talk to my parents while I just got distracted by toys because I was a little kid. I didn't know any better. And always in elementary school, I was always part of the IEP group, where basically it's us with disabilities that need a little extra time. But yeah, I've always been with special needs, and I think it was not till around that time that I realized, hey, I have autism, which kind of made sense in retrospect. I was given the term Asperger's, but currently we autistic people are trying not to use that term anymore because it's named after a guy who's literally a Nazi, and why would you want autism to be, your disability to be associated with literal scum of the earth? I'd say any hindrance it's had is more just sort of socially, because I'd always be sort of I would never really hang out with kids outside of school. I would usually keep to myself and my own special interests. Not to say I wouldn't hang out with anyone. This wasn't really a room I used other than Movies with Matt. Really my main hub was actually right here. This was right here. This was the real Snapper headquarters.
Snapper headquarters.
I'm Lisa, Matt's mom. Matt, as a young child,
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
Yeah.
He was a good kid. He was a good kid. He really always was keeping to himself, and he always loved to read and loved to watch TV programs and movies, just like he does now. He was an excellent student. He was always a really good student. And even though he got some extra help with When he was younger, it was handwriting, and as he got older, his writing improved. He had occupational therapy as a young kid. Like I said before, he always kept to himself, and he always got along better with adults than the younger children.
I taught Matt in high school. I had Matt every single year in high school. Matt was a good student in my classes. I think it helped that it was on topics that he seemed to enjoy, being production and movies. So he was a very good student for me in my classes. You could see Matt taking all of my stuff in, and you could see him grow as a person and mature. And by the time he left here, he was a mini celebrity, quite honestly, because he did a monthly movies with Matt, that part of our news that the kids just loved. And like by the end of it, people were like, "Oh, you're the movie guy. You're the movie guy," which, you know, and you could see that he enjoyed that, number one, but he really matured and understood how to take it all in.
Let's see. There are certain scenes that could be like extended a little more. Some jokes don't always hit. T.J. Miller is obnoxious.
I don't think it's any different than any. Speaking of Matthew compared to speaking with another student about another student, you know, does he think differently? Everyone thinks differently. You know, it's just finding what works for that student. Patrick Brooks, Professor Patrick Brooks. I'm an adjunct professor here at Kean University. He was in my documentary production class last fall. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was in the introduction when I was talking about what I was hoping to accomplish and things like that. He would snap his hand up and he would ask a question, or I know this, and he would be very excited. And also, I think in that class, if I'm not mistaken, I used an example of a show my wife and I were watching that was Love on the Spectrum. And after the class, I remember him coming up to me saying, he goes, "I'm on the spectrum." And because I personally have a son on the spectrum. So, but that was my earliest recollection that I remember.
Matt always walked in a pretty happy kid because I think he enjoyed my class and liked what we were doing. There were days when you could see that Matt had some rough days, things like that, where he was a little upset about certain things that maybe happened in other classes and things like that. But you know, with the sense of humor that Matt has, and a really good understanding of like what's going on in life, he was able to kind of deep breath and kind of, you know, let it all out, if you will.
He used to dance a lot. So, so when he was in preschool, they had a little party at the end of the year, and he would be dancing in the background and putting on little shows. And I had no idea that he was capable of doing that, being that he was so shy and kept to himself. So that was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I have video of it. I definitely have audio of Matt rapping. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and it's as good as you'd expect it to be right now. The faces were definitely tell it all.
This was so stupid. I love it.
Okay, so there's that. You have to take that with you.
That's perfect.
Here.
I've been thinking a lot lately about driver safety, all the ways and hows.
Oh, there's Ron.
Think that it's cool to break the rules? Then shut up and listen now. Using a phone when it's danger.
I have my friends from back home, Boris and Ram. We've been like pals since like high school. We made a lot of videos together, and we're still good friends to this day. We still talk to each other. We're actually planning soon to do a Sonic movie marathon.
When Matt was younger, I always had him doing activities, even though he wasn't really too excited about it. But we bowling and swimming, and he had a group of friends that we would try to get the boys all together and do the activities. And that really helped him grow, I believe.
Other people in my socials group, like I also have to think like the people of Kean TV, like Maria, Diego, Taha, Robin, Kevin, Norm. I'm probably missing a few names, but they've all been very supportive. Like and they've been like great. They're not. I think this is the other thing is like they're not fake. I think I've dealt with this in high school. Is like I've dealt with a lot of fake people that like you think you're gonna be your friends, and then they'll just quickly like abandon you. But not these guys. Like all of them have been incredibly great people to hang out with, and they've been helping me like see more of my creativity than I ever thought I could. I realized that someone I knew, who I thought was a friend, like really said something hurtful to me, and like it was more like he was just randomly like, "Can I just say something mean to you?" And I was like, because I was used to like sort of that kind of behavior from him. I'm like, all right, go ahead. But I didn't expect what was about to be said, and what he said. And this is probably going to be one of the most things that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life. Like, is that you've given me people on the spectrum a bad name. I cannot state how awful hearing that was, because that's also going into a misconception that everyone on the spectrum is the same, as I mentioned before. And by even saying that, like, you just not only insulted me, but just insulted other people on the spectrum that do not act like me. And that's not cool. Also, it's just hurtful because I thought this was a friend. And he always had this like blunt side of him. But it's just that point where it's like, the fact you even thought that was okay to say out loud, and maybe it was my fault because I let him say it, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to play victim in here. But the fact he even said that was extremely eye-opening. I didn't really fully realize it until last week, because this was a few weeks ago. It was extremely hurtful, and it sort of made me go back to that way of thinking that that I was almost like a burden. Like I wasn't a friend. I was just a burden.
My son actually is on the spectrum as well. I shouldn't say has autism, because you don't have autism. You're on the spectrum. You're a person with autism. But so dealing with folks on the spectrum, it does take a little bit of understanding, but I don't think it really changes the way you deal with them per se. Once you understand what is going on as far as socially, emotionally, and things like that, it doesn't become that difficult.
In many ways, if we're talking about teaching or working with, they're just like anybody else. Everybody has things that either bother them, sensitivities or things like that. It's working with the student or the person within their confines or within their realm or within their sensitivities. And when you learn what that is, it makes it easier to communicate, work with. And so I would say that as a professor, open yourself up to all your students, but be willing to adapt. Not every one of them learns the same way. And children on the spectrum are just the same. It's finding what works for them. And once you can find what works for them, it's amazing to see them light up and watch them go, because they get really excited, and and especially when they're excited about something, they don't stop. They love to talk about it, or they love when they're excited about something. They're just very enthusiastic. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be able to know, work with, and grow up with, someone on the spectrum. I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful experience.
For me, like people say, oh, he's overcome this and he's overcome that. I never viewed Matt as a kid on the spectrum. So for me, the thing that I admire most about Matt is he has the passion and the drive to do it. That's the biggest thing for me is if he wants to get something done, he's going to get it done. So, that's the biggest thing for me. Has he overcome a lot as a kid on the spectrum? Sure, absolutely. But again, I have a kid on the spectrum, and he's doing great in college too. So that doesn't, I don't have lower expectations because he's on the spectrum.
I know that over the course of the class itself, not just him, but other students, I don't think that they realize the challenges that come along with making documentaries. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, and he was great about it. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. I think his plan was quite ambitious, because at the time I think he initially pitched to me he wanted to do the history of Spider-Man, and I was like, you're going to do a 65-year span in 7 to 8 minutes is going to be a really big challenge. I said, focus it. You can still add historical elements, but focus it on something more around you. And so this way I kind of turned it internally, what the character means to him. I think we were brainstorming, or we were doing, I don't remember exactly what we were doing, but I basically gave you guys the class, him and his other students, the class to work on their projects. And he's like, at the end of class, he's like, look, I've got all this written down. He's like, I did all this. And he got very excited. He was that he had accomplished something. He goes, I'm back on track. He was like, I'm really, which was really funny to see. So once he kind of got back into it right after that, he was blazing. He was good to go.
Like Peter Parker, I struggle to balance my life a lot of the time. If anything, making this documentary has made me realize it too. And it's hard, especially when sometimes it feels like the whole world is against you. And I've had my low points. But then I remember, Spider-Man doesn't give up. Sure, a date ruined or some overdue bills might bring him down as much as a pumpkin bomb or a robotic arm. But he always keeps going. And to me, that's what Spider-Man is. Perseverance. We all have great power, so why not accept the responsibility as well? And by doing this documentary, I've learned so much that Spider-Man means to me, is that he is a reason to continue to live and grow.
This might be a little silly, but I want to be a YouTuber. Like, make some video essays and all that. Like, have like a good editing software where sort of I can just do the videos that I want to do. But also I just want to go back to sort of like what I love, movies, comics, animation. Like, I just want to get back to that. One of the disadvantages of the college experience for me was sort of, I kind of lost a little bit of myself, like between like all these new experiences. I sort of lost that part of myself that like kind of missed like the days where like I would just grab a stack of graphic novels from the library, which I still do, from my public library, which I still do. I feel like the college experience has been great. It's been great. I'm not going to complain, but like I also feel like it's been a little hindering on the stuff that I sort of, everything I liked sort of took a little bit of a backseat. I just sort of want to bring that back as I'm approaching my senior year come next spring. In the future, I hope I have a good career, but honestly, like, I think what I've learned is that sometimes these things really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. What really life is about is doing what you love with the people that you care and love about. And honestly, as long as I have those things, that's okay by me.